City of Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission meeting, recorded May 3, 2022.
I have 2 o'clock.
That's a pretty short.
I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We're going to start with the roll call. Leanne.
Mrozek. Here. Kirschling.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Ostrowski.
Here.
And Taylor.
Here.
All right, everybody is here and accounted for. Second item on the agenda is the election of the commission president and the secretary. Mr. Secretary, I will turn this over to you for now.
All righty. Since we have had some leadership changes in the past and they have worked out, I would like to make a motion to retain the present president. I would like to nominate Jerry Moore to once again be our president for the upcoming year.
Kirschling, second that.
And at that time, is there anybody else that wishes to be nominated? If not, I will entertain a motion for unanimous acceptance of Jerry to be our president with Joe's second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. President, for accepting.
All right, continuing on, we have the election of our secretary. I would nominate Mr. Ostrowski to retain that position. Do we have a second?
Second by Mrozek.
Second by Mrozek. Is there any other nominations for the secretary? Hearing none, I would request all in favor say aye.
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 Unanimous decision for Mr. Ostrowski to retain the secretary position. Next on the agenda is to assign liaisons. Mr. Kirschling, I would like you to stay as the fire department, if that's acceptable with you.
It's acceptable.
Thank you. And Commissioner Mrozek, I would like you to take on the role for the police department, if that would be acceptable.
Yes.
Thank you. So liaisons for fire is Commissioner Kirschling, and for police is Commissioner Mrozek. Now that we have that business out of the way, moving on to agenda item number 3, which is the presentation of yearly business review of on-site injury prevention services for 2021 by Tracy Taupner, Advanced Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine. Tracy, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I know your agendas get very busy. I've been working with the Stevens Point Police and Fire Department for the past 12 years as their on-site athletic trainer and strength and conditioning coach. And today what I'd like to share with you is some information of our last report and kind of give you an update of how things have been going since there's been quite a few seat changes in the commission. In front of you, you're going to see 3 different documents. You're going to see a report from the fire department, a report from the police department, and then you're going to see a wellness report from the annual fitness assessments and strength and conditioning assessments that are done 3 times a year. In the combined report for the fitness data is a combined report, and I'll briefly go over that towards the end. So we'll start off with the fire department's data first. It should be the orange highlighted one. There's certainly a lot of information to cover in this, so I'm going to briefly touch on some of the more highlights of the program, at least so you can see how your dollars are being spent and hear about how some of the benefits are that are coming out of the program. If you could draw your attention to the second page, you'll see the visit type graph, which is in the middle, the blue bar graph. This graph basically breaks down how my time is spent on site and what types of things that we are doing. And so anyone that walks into my office, we capture that in some way, shape, or form in our documentation system. And so for the fire department, we had 114 non-injury related appointments. Those are things like strength and conditioning, wellness, nutrition, mental or emotional health types things that might come into my door. Further down, you'll see non-work related, workers' comp, and rehab response. Non-work related is obviously non-work related type injuries. Workers' comp is when a workers' comp claim has been filed. And then rehab response is when an officer or firefighter gets injured and they come in my door and say, hey, I injured myself at work, I filled out an accident report, can you take a look at it? So at that point in time, they have not actually sought out further medical evaluation. And the point of those rapid response appointments are to catch an appointment and keep it small and also help them triage the healthcare system appropriately So if we can avoid things like urgent cares and ERs, which are super expensive, we're going to try to do that if it's musculoskeletal related. We have direct access to physicians in our community that have agreed to see our officers and our firefighters, to me personally and to the previous chiefs, but now we'll get them introduced to the new chiefs, to see them as quickly as possible. Generally, the waiting time for an officer or firefighter is anywhere between a couple hours to at max 2 days to get in to see an orthopedic specialist. So again, we're trying to make those appointments shorter, so we're not waiting weeks and weeks and weeks to get answers to anything that's orthopedic. The second graph I'd like to draw your attention to is the appointment type, which is the green bar graph in the bottom right-hand corner. So for the fire department, this again further breaks down the time that we spend with them. And again, we capture these by visits. So how many visits did we have? And those visits can be between 15 and 30 minutes. On a rare occasion, they go into 45 if it's a new eval or something that's really complex. But we try to keep them short and sweet so they can keep doing their work, and we're not pulling them off the road or holding them up from a call in any way, shape, or form. And so from the appointment type, you can see that we had 59 different initial assessments. That means 59 visits where a firefighter walked into my office and we evaluated them for some type of musculoskeletal condition, ache, pain, anything like that. Then we have formal follow-up, which is, rehab, basically, that we're doing with them. And then any types of strength and conditioning, wellness is all captured in this as well. So for the wellness, we had 85 wellness assessments, and then we had 25 firefighters that were involved in strength and conditioning programs throughout the year, which is, again, really positive. Generally, what we've been seeing within the fire department is about 80–85%, and you'll see this on the fitness assessment document, but 80–85% are meeting standards or exceeding the expectations when it comes to fitness and wellness. So we're doing really, really, really good there. A couple other things I want to take the time to show you on this document with the fire department is the financials. So this is the dollars that's being spent by the taxpayers within the budgets that's coming out. And I want to let you know how those dollars are being kind of captured and what type of ROI that it's generating. So when we break this report down, I know this is the first time you're seeing it, so I want to spend just a little bit of time explaining it. The first box on the top is the OSHA first aid. So those are the appointments where a firefighter got injured, they haven't sought medical help yet, and they've seen me and I've been able to keep it in this small category. So if you look at the workers' compensation workforce development, they give a number of about $11,000 is what it costs every time someone gets injured and they go through, all the hooplas of getting evaluated and MRIs and x-rays. That number's probably slightly inflated for what we're actually doing here, but it did generate a cost savings or a return of about $56,000. I think the truer costs here come in the next two bar graphs, which is the workers' comp and the commercial insurance savings. And so we've had conversations with CIVMIC, and CIVMIC has told us that on average, a workers' comp physical therapy visit is about $500, okay? We know that our time here on site is a lot less than that. So currently right now we're at $80 an hour for the time that we're here on site. This last year in the fire department's a really good example of how successful these programs can be because we had a very large workers' comp this last year. We had a low back injury that resulted in multiple days off work and multiple interventions from rehab all the way down to the surgical route. And so in this particular case, we were able to save the city $40,000 in workers' comp physical therapy just by having these services on site. In addition to that, we were able to keep this member as part of the department, okay? Keep him in his environment because we know when workers sit at home, they start to get into their brain and then the mental emotional health starts to deteriorate and they don't feel part of the team. They don't know what's going on. And that can sometimes affect some of the larger things, and I don't want to go all the way to the end of the spectrum of suicide, but that can start to wear on somebody when you have a catastrophic injury, really large amounts of time off like this particular firefighter did. And so again, we're able to draw some of that back, save dollars, and again, I can't put a number on all those other things that come from it. The other one is the commercial savings. So generally, physical therapy in a clinic costs about $250 a visit. Again, with the rate that we have for our hourly time on site, we estimated a savings of about $23,000. Just those two things alone paid for the program. Okay, and we saved just on that alone $40,000. And again, we're not even taking into effect the wellness, the strength and conditioning, the mental health, the stretching, the ergonomics, all the other great things that we're doing at the fire department, okay? I'm going to pause to see if anyone has any questions on the financial piece of it.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Besides the firefighter that came in and saw you multiple times, generally, are the people that are coming to see you, is it spread across the department, or is it just a few that are coming to see you that are driving these numbers?
Yeah, so I think if I remember correctly from what Lisa and Corey gave me for the workers' comp numbers, our work comp numbers, incidences were still low compared to where they were when we first started. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me of where we were overall, but in the department, almost everybody will work with me in some capacity along the route of their workers' comp, physical therapy, or just case management, or those sort of things. And I think that's because I've been with the department as long as I have. I've gained trust. I'm seen as part of the family. I could probably say other pieces of that. I don't know how much, Chief, you want me to go into details, but I feel like I'm part of that team, and almost everybody there will call me, text me, email me the second something happens. Sometimes I know before even upper management knows when something's happened, which tells me that we have a lot of buy-in from the organization, which helps these programs drive in the positive direction that we're seeing on these numbers.
Thank you, that answers my question.
Perfect, thank you.
Question for you.
Yes.
They come to your facility? This is not, you're not going to the firehouse?
No, I'm actually at the firehouse.
Oh, you're actually at the
Yep,
firehouse?
so I have a small space down in the basement. It's a private room with a door. There's a treatment table in there, and then I've got access to the weight room down there to do all the physical rehab that we need to do.
At Station 1?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So we do have a fold-out table for Station 2, because that's something we identified during COVID, was trying to keep each members in their house, so we weren't transmitting in any way, shape, or form, so. Okay. The last piece of this on the backside is some really good success stories that I just want to take 3 minutes to kind of explain. So we had a firefighter that came in for chronic neck pain, and after 8 sessions of rehab and doing some exercises, we were able to get rid of all of their symptoms, okay? I cannot tell you how many times, and I've been in this group for a while, but that is something that we see a lot of that we don't think of as something that could potentially pull a firefighter out, and I see this with the PD as well, but that upper thoracic type symptoms. And if we're able to manage those, that's not making someone going home because they have a migraine or they have something more serious that's going on. We had a recruit that came in, which is really important when we have our new recruits to keep them as healthy as possible. They reported some knee pain that was not relevant to anything at work, but they had knee pain. We were able to evaluate it and give them exercises, and they reported no further issues. So again, a young recruit that's just coming in, he's worried about whether he's going to keep his job, and being able to work with them and keep them going, I think, is really vital to the success of the program. And then one of the highlights that that happened this year with our new training officer, Howard, is he implemented a recruit academy, and we do strength and conditioning with those recruits. I think that intervention has been huge within the department and very progressive, at trying to keep them as strong as possible and set them up with a good foundation and set the expectation of how important fitness is within this house. And so I'm very honored to be part of that program. With that, I'd like to move on to the police department, unless anyone has any questions.
Nope, keep going.
Okay, excellent. So we'll go a little quicker this time. So police department, again, that top graph I'd like to draw your attention to. So from a visit standpoint, very high when it comes to non-injury related, which is good. We want to see that wellness, that strength and conditioning happening. And then low on the workers' comp. We had little to no workers' comp this past year at the PD, which is good. And then we had a lot of non-work related things that we're just treating and taking care of people. So again, the numbers look really well. The program's being utilized to the capacity that we want it to be utilized. From the cost savings perspective, you're not going to see as much of a big gap as we did with the fire department, because we just didn't have that large workers' comp like we did with them. And so we saved about $30,000 just in the workers' comp and the commercial insurance again, so that's about an $8,000 saving when you look at what was actually spent on the program. And so again, phenomenal numbers. We're doing really great work at the PD as well. So to highlight a couple of those successes with the police department, I saw an officer that came in with foot pain. It had been bothering him for 2 months. We saw him 4 times for plantar fasciitis, gave him some rehab, some inserts for his boots, and he's reporting no further symptoms. So again, very quickly we can intervene with physical therapy and get these conditions under control before it becomes into something more catastrophic. I also had 9 officers participate in a 12-week strength and conditioning program, which was kind of neat. And the previous year, prior to COVID, we actually did a research study here at the department with UW-Stevens Point, looking at heart rate and heart rate variability and seeing what types of stresses are placed upon the officers. One of the positive things that came out of that is this department's really progressive with the calming, being involved from like a peer support group and any types of mental types of things that are going on. So it's really positive outcomes. The other thing that I think is really good with the police department compared to other groups and that I've been working with is they have a very progressive post-offer testing program and a very progressive return to work program. And the fire department has this as well. But getting involved and having physical therapy and having myself involved with the management of injuries to try to return officers and firefighters back to work sooner is something really positive that has come out of this program here. So now we've gotten an opportunity to show physicians and have conversations to say, hey, we know these officers are fit for duty now. Let's get them back into work. You don't need to wait another week or another 2 weeks. They're safe now to play, if you can kind of understand that concept. But yeah, overall, everything at the police department's going very, very, very well. Services are being utilized to the capacity that they should. So I'm going to pause before I talk briefly about the wellness report. Anyone have any questions? Okay, I went really fast over the police, but everything's going good. So with the fitness reports, 3 times a year we do a fitness assessment for both the police officers and the firefighters. And this is actually a program that's done citywide, but I only do the police and fire portions of it. And so through these fitness assessments, we have seen some really good changes come out of the program really quickly. And now for the past 3 years, we're holding very steady with very positive numbers. Our numbers did slip slightly when it comes to our cardiovascular this last year. And I believe that's due to a lot of officers and firefighters having what I call long COVID or COVID fatigue, just from all the different pieces of the COVID fatigue, not only from, their sleep health, their fatigue from working. We certainly had a lot of backfills and overtimes in both departments while we were working while people were out on COVID. And so fitness didn't necessarily take a huge leap down, but it definitely had a little dip further than what we would have expected for, our normal conditions. Other than that, everything else, functionally, waist circumference, body fat, all stayed relatively the same or improved slightly compared to where it did the year prior. So we have really good participation in that. It's not a requirement, but the officers and firefighters are incentivized via the city's health insurance program if they do participate. So, and that's all I have for my report today.
There's a lot.
I know. I was told I had a short window, but I wanted to at least give you the information to read it and draw your attention to the things that are important, that the dollars being spent are coming around. We're generating a return on investment. Typically, we see 6 to 1. And this program's been around, like I said, for 12 years, and every year we've seen, the money that you put into it comes back, 2, 3, 4 to 6 times fold. So, yeah, very good stuff.
Anyone else have any questions? Thank you very much,
Excellent.
Tracy.
Thank you guys for your time.
That was very interesting. Okay, we're moving on to agenda item number 4, which is the approval of minutes. You should have had those in your packet. If anyone has any questions, feel free to fire them up.
In my review of the minutes, I don't see anything that needs to change, so I would suggest we approve them.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Ostrowski,
Second by Mrozek.
second by Mrozek. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item number 5 is the confirmation of bills. Mr. Ostrowski, would you like to start anywhere in particular?
Well, since we got 2 new chiefs, and they were warned that
Have at 'em.
I should make their life miserable, as the past chiefs have said I have. Unfortunately, I'll start out with the ambulance one to start with to see. The monthly bills show nothing unusual. The budget on that is going relatively good, only in, it's staying within target. When I move on to the fire department, I look also, nothing jumps out at me as unusual, other than we see we purchased challenge coins, but I understand we purchased those a bunch at one time. rather than nitpicking here and there. Again, their budget remains pretty much on target, you know, only 26% used. And when I look at the police department again, well, there was a large amount of expenses for the month of April. It can be explained in that there is, you know, like $3,000 just for transporting a prisoner, and a couple other expenses that happened but once. So, and again, their budget running at that point, you know, only 19%. So I would actually have to say that the new chief must be doing their job because it's running pretty good, and I would recommend we approve the bills as submitted.
Do we have a second? Seems we have a motion on the floor.
Kirschling will second that.
Okay, do we have further questions or comments about the bills? No. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Item number 6, Police Chief Kuso. I got to say that finally.
Yes, you did.
Your turn for the chief's report.
So I'll go over a couple things. Obviously, with those transport that Commissioner Ostrowski just brought up, we've had a couple high-profile cases this month, and one was the Target carjacking. Our detectives did an incredible job, ended up locating the individual down in Missouri, and so we have to get him transported back up, so we will have another bill probably on this month's for more transportation as well. The other thing I want to point out is I had met with Tracy about all of this stuff from last year, and one of the things that we recognized that it was a lot of lower back pain or injuries that officers are doing. With my new position, CIVMIC got a hold of me, and CIVMIC identified me as their coordinator for the Law Enforcement Risk Mitigation Program. And they had given us $2,500 to spend. So Assistant Chief Dana Williams actually already ordered 3 VAR desks, which are desks that'll go on patrol, that'll lift up so they can stand while they're doing the reports if they choose to, after sitting in a vehicle all day, and so they're not doing their reports in their vehicle. So we're making changes as well based on the information we received from Tracy. Other thing is Officer Stacy Morton is solo patrol as of April 4th. We had a very successful drug take-back, which was on April 30th. Officer Schultz went to the ADRC. We ended up collecting 417.4 pounds of unused or expired medications from that. So we will have 22 boxes of medication taken to the State Patrol for incineration coming up. Another high-profile case was an ICAC, which is Internet Crimes Against Children. We had an individual here in Stevens Point who Detective Garrett did an incredible job with the investigation, found out he was actually crossing state lines on a lot of chat rooms with child pornography. Because of that, they reached out to the feds, and it'll actually be prosecuted federally. Because of all of the overtime that we spent on that one investigation, Assistant Chief Williams reached out to ICAC, and we are going to put in for an overtime reimbursement request on that for all 66.75 hours of overtime. So we are most likely going to get that reimbursed as well. On the 20th, we had a individual with mental health issues at the university, and I just want to commend Officer Kim DeRoser, who responded. All of our officers here are crisis intervention trained to deal with individuals with mental illness. She was able to use those skills, calm the individual down, pull them back out of their dorm room window, and that individual was treated. It was a very, very successful resolution to that issue. The other thing that's important is Lieutenant Johnson is our RTF, which is Rescue Task Force Coordinator. And what Rescue Task Force is we work with the fire department, and on an active shooter, when there's a warm zone, we actually bring paramedics in with us so they can save lives. And we do an annual training. This year we had 150 police go through it. We had 50 fire personnel. But the other thing is we had 150 volunteers this year that role played for us over a 3-day period. The community was incredible in helping us with this. It was very, very realistic. And Lieutenant Spath graduated from the Leadership in Police Organizations on April 22nd.
Was that training over by the train yard?
It was over at Dixon Street. Century donated their building for us to use.
Because I saw some training over on going on over at the train yard, and it was, I don't know, all kinds of law enforcement and fire and ambulance and.
Oh, I'm not aware.
That might have been our staging area.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the days so we have a stage, yeah, you're correct. Thank you. So it was a staging area for
Okay.
Century Insurance.
Got it.
So
Do we have an age limit on the volunteers or?
the volunteers ranged from 14 to 75. So,
Very nice. Any other questions for the chief? Seeing none, chief, are you done with your report?
and I'd just like to congratulate Detective Williams becoming Assistant Chief today. And obviously, you all know Tom retired yesterday.
Okay. I make a motion to accept the report and place it on file. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
May I have a second from Commissioner Taylor? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item number 7, Chief of Police, 2022 operational budget concern, oh, is this for
Fire
Mr.
chief.
Fire? Oh, my mistake. Bet you didn't want to answer that one.
Scared the police department.
Operational budget concerns this year with a 0% increase in our budget.
Correct.
Go.
So, we just got done talking about bills and where both of our departments are right now. And I believe that Chief Kuso was gonna have the exact same concerns that I have moving forward in 2022. And I just wanted to bring those up to the PFC earlier in the year, and rather than waiting till later this year and having more concerns. This has been a concern of all of ours, and with the city basically making it a 0% increase in our 2022 operational budget, we seen in 2021 a 16% increase in costs. And that was 4 different 4% increases throughout the year. Since then, the fire service has seen an average of an additional 7% in increases since February 1st. An additional 5% in costs since March 1st. And as of May 1st, we saw another 5% increase in our operational costs within the fire department. Over the last 16 months, we've seen a 33% increase in the cost of doing business within the Stevens Point Fire Department. And any of our projects that we currently have going on with construction or steel prices, costs are up over 100 to 150%. Fuel costs are going up, as we know, as well. And these are all concerns that I have as a chief looking at the 2022 budget. And I want to make sure that the PFC is aware that we are going to try our absolute best as chiefs and as departments here within the city, but to maintain the stellar, equipment that we have, the operations that we have, and the staffing that we have, with a 0% increase in 2022, it's a grim future as to hopefully staying in the black by the end of 22. I don't know if it's going to be feasibly possible. So I wanted to make sure that we were all aware of that ahead of time moving forward.
Chief, does your fleet vehicles use gas or diesel?
A majority of them are using diesel.
I just saw just recently that the average diesel now is $5.69, and in some parts of the country, that's $1.50 more than that.
And some of our apparatuses within our fire fleet are getting 2 to 4 gallons per mile. Or 2 to 4 miles per gallon, sorry.
It's not much better.
But it's not much better, correct.
Chief, do we have a analysis of, right now there's concerns, but we're in the middle of the second quarter. Do we have any idea how far or how close to the budget we're going to come, or how far over the budget as it stands if we continue the current
If we continue where we're going, I'm projecting anywhere between a 15 and a 23% deficit by the end of the year.
And that's just for fuel cost, or is that for an overall budget?
That's overall. And what we're not seeing so far is we're only a third of the year, you know, in, and a lot of our training and a lot of our other major purchases have not even started yet.
Chief, are you similar in the police department? Have you looked into this yet? I know you're new.
I'm not looking into where we're at this point. I believe that we're doing okay.
Okay. Certainly gonna be a concern in the future.
What, I don't have it right in front of me, maybe I'm not reading this right. What is the overall operating budget for the fire department and the police department for 2022?
I think for us it's 5.6.
5.6?
And ours is about 5.5 total between fire and EMS.
So you might be a little over $1 million over budget in the year.
By the end.
Okay. And how about you, Chief?
Yeah, we're at 5.6 is our annual, and I think we're okay as of right now.
Okay.
Something for our finance committee and alderpersons to be aware of. Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be every department, so good luck with that. That's not gonna be any fun. Thank you for that, Chief. That's much needed information and something we all need to stay on top of. Moving on, agenda item number 8, truck number 22, update from Pierce.
So as you may all know, I added a schematic print of the new apparatus that we're going to be purchasing or did purchase. As of December 21st of this last year, we signed on the dotted line for this apparatus. This is an exact example of what we were talking about when we talk about financial dollars. When we started speccing this apparatus last February, this apparatus was going to cost us about $836,000. When we signed on the dotted line before all of our cost savings and incentives, it was $1,071,000 for this piece of equipment. But obviously, after all our incentives and savings, we were able to get in under $950,000. So with that, just wanted to show everybody the schematic of the new apparatus. Truck 22 is on a BMP program with Pierce, which is a Build My Pierce product. What that allows us to do is, instead of receiving this apparatus in 24 to 36 months from the time we sign on the dotted line, this apparatus is supposed to be here in Stevens Point by the end of this year, and hopefully will be operational, serving the community by February 1st. So that is the plan with this apparatus at this time.
Is this apparatus gonna fit in the facilities we have right now?
Yes, it was measured twice to make sure that we were going to be able to fit this apparatus into the apparatus bay where it is going to be stationed when it arrives here in Stevens Point.
It's replacing another vehicle that's gonna be
Correct.
taken out?
It's going to be replacing Tower 2, and Tower 2 is going to be a reserve apparatus once Truck 22 goes operational.
This is a tower unit itself, right?
Yes, well, this is a truck, so the difference between a truck and a tower is just basically the bucket or basket on the front.
Okay.
So this will be a straight stick, and this is actually gonna be 107 feet, so it will be the largest ladder in our fleet when it arrives.
Tallest or,
Yes, the tallest.
okay.
Where do the reserve units move to?
As of right now, our reserve units will move to either Station 1 or Station 2, just depending on size and location.
And where they're positioned in the station, right?
Correct. But what we would like to do is we have on our capital improvement projects for 2024 with the city, the building of a new facility at our training site. And what we would like to do is we're going to take truck 1 and move it down to that facility and be able to use that for all training purposes. And no matter, while we're training with the on-duty crews, if a call were to come in, we don't have to do anything with that apparatus. We can respond with the apparatuses we have in online every day, so that response does not get delayed.
When we receive this truck, will there be additional costs to outfit it, or does it come ready to go?
There will be some additional cost, but that'll be absorbed in our operational cost.
Okay.
And we're preparing for that and planning.
Excellent. Is there any other questions for the chief on the truck? Okay, thank you very much for that update. Moving along to agenda item number 9 is staffing updates with free firefighter paramedics starting academy number 2202 on May 23rd.
So with that, just wanted to make sure everybody is aware, we are really focused on recruitment and retention within the Stevens Point Fire Department, and that is a very high priority for us. We've just gone through the onboarding process for 3 new probationary firefighter paramedics. They're going to be starting their academy with our division chief of training May 23rd, and it'll be class 2202. And the reason being for that number is it is the year the academy is being held in, and it is the second recruit academy that's being held already this year. So Division Chief Howard has had his work cut out for him already this year with running a second recruit academy, and Chief Gemza and I are looking forward to potentially a 3rd and 4th recruit academy before the end of this year.
Very good. Any questions? Seeing none, moving along.
President Moore?
Yes.
Before we move on to the next, I'd like to, if possible, move to number 12 in the agenda, because I think it is the most appropriate to give you an update on that first.
Okay, if there's no objections. Seeing none, we're going to take agenda item number 12 first, which is the new assistant chief and division chief positions within the Stevens Point Fire Department. Chief Moody.
So as all of you know, we were moving forward with filling the assistant chief and division chief's roles within the Stevens Point Fire Department. We felt it was important to do this correctly and appropriately. We went out and reclassified some positions, got the pay in line with other departments for these ranks, did an internal and external search, and then we ran a chief's assessment center. We brought chiefs in from Rylander, Wausau, Marshfield Fire, along with bringing in Assistant Chief Williams from the Stevens Point PD to be a part of this process, and our Special Investigator Egan, who was our prior fire marshal, to be a part of it as well, along with the other chiefs in the department. With that, when we went through the process, we had multiple candidates for each position. We took the top 4 candidates for each position and offered them the assessment center to come in and go through that process with us. So going through the process, we found 2 highly qualified candidates for both positions, and that's why we're here today to talk about that.
Okay. Then moving on, well, moving back to agenda item number 10, which is the promotion of Mr. Dennis Zavara to the rank of Assistant Chief.
So with that, going through the Assistant Chief's process, it was pretty much unanimous across the board with our chief officers and the assessment center that Dennis Zavara was not only an internal candidate, but he rose through the process to definitely be the #1 candidate in that position. And so with the PFC's approval, I would like to offer him a conditional offer of employment as the new Assistant Chief of Fire Department Operations.
Okay. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to promote Dennis Savara to the rank of Assistant Chief.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Kirschling. Second?
Is there gonna be like an effective date you have in mind?
We are, after I offer him the position, and if he accepts, It kind of goes in line with the next topic, is I am asking that if he accepts the position, that we start him at step 4.
Okay, let's hold on to that
Yeah,
for the
And
next
that,
agenda
and that
item.
plays into that question.
That question, a valid question.
Yes,
Yeah,
so-
yeah. So, do we have a second yet?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second to promote Dennis Zavara to the rank of Assistant Chief. Any other questions about that? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item number 11 is the request to hire Assistant Chief Zavara at step 4 of the City of Stevens Point Pay Plan Fire. And that is to bring him to the same level as other assistant chiefs, correct?
Correct. So looking at where he would start, we can offer him a step 3 as an assistant chief without going any further through PFC or personnel or common council, but we feel it's appropriate. And I know the PD just did this with Assistant Chief Williams with the overtime and the other pay incentives that they're receiving at this point. Again, I feel it's appropriate as well that he start at step 4 if he effectively accepts the conditional offer. Going to Commissioner Taylor's discussion on when that effective date would be, we have to go in front of, again, committee, and then we have to go in front of council. And then after we get through everything, I would be looking at doing that promotional process sometime around Memorial Day.
Oh, okay, not that far ahead then.
Yes.
Okay.
So, we need a motion.
So if he goes from step 3 to step 4, that doesn't necessarily come out of your current operational budget, that comes out, we would go before the common council in the city.
It's going to come out of my operational budget, but I still have to go in front of them to be able to move him to a step 4.
Okay.
I have to get approval.
Approval, okay.
You still have the floor. We don't have a motion yet.
I will make a motion that we support this move to step 4 for new assistant chief.
Okay, we have a
Kirschling
motion.
will second that.
Kirschling seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We are moving on to agenda item number 13, which is to hire Anthony Ewing to the rank of Division Chief. Chief Moody. Did I say his name correctly?
You did, Anthony Ewing. You are correct. But it is with great sadness that I'm going to have to say that I received an email from Mr. Ewing last night at 2 minutes to midnight, expressing his concerns that he was going to have to withdraw from the process of the division chief's position within the Stevens Point Fire Department. So with that, at this time, I do not have a name to bring forward for the promotion of division chief within our department. I am going to be looking at reevaluating the position and deciding how we're going to move forward and with what process. And I will bring that up, I will bring that back to the PFC and let them know where we're going as a management staff within the city of Stevens Point Fire Department.
Very good. So there's no action needed on item 13 at this
Maybe
moment.
this division chief, is that to replace our fire marshal?
That is correct, the division chief of the Bureau.
Any insight onto why, to the withdrawal?
No,
Nothing?
no.
Okay, we are now on to agenda item number 14, the fire chief's report, EMS report. Chief Moody, you're returning that over to Mr. Gemza, or you're gonna continue on?
Well, I don't want to set Chief Gems up for failure here because I'm the guy who's going to be failing him. I'll take the blame. He actually gave me the the EMS report this morning, and on my mistake, I did not bring it with to hand out to the PFC, but I can definitely turn the EMS side of the report over to Chief and then finish up with the fire side.
Okay. Yeah, because you the camera and we have millions of people following us online.
All the tens and tens and tens of them, just like that.
Well, it's dropping now. I can
It's
see the
dropping now.
gauges now that you're up there.
Thank you very much. Just a quick shout out regarding the RTF, like Chief Kuso had mentioned. It was another huge success. The groups that we worked with, our partnership with Century. Century had brought in some of their security detail to work with us. It was also with UWSP we partnered with, and then there was state troopers along with some Wisconsin DNR personnel too. So when you think about a response like this, a regional response, and God forbid if something like that ever happened, now we got faces to uniforms, right? We've worked with you, we've trained with you, we feel comfortable with you. When you're asking medics to go into a hot zone to pull somebody out, when we're asking officers to do stuff that they're not used to in their day-to-day stuff, it's very important that we have that line of communication, number one, because our number one failure every time is radio communication and our ability to see inside that building to get the resources out there, right? Knowing that we're a limited community, we're in central Wisconsin, our resources are anywhere between 40 to, our longest ambulance response would be 71 minutes to the scene if we called an alarm. So getting those resources in, calling NSERT with our law enforcement partners to secure the scene. And then the other big thing about that training was it was more or less like the aftermath to get the medics and the law enforcement to understand that, yeah, it may only take a couple hours to secure the scene to get this done, but once that's done, it is what, up to 3 to 4 weeks worth of processing. There's people that come in from all over the country to help with this, and just you have to start thinking that, because it's not just like, whew, we're done, we can go home now. No, it's just the beginning of a very long and tedious stretch for us, for everybody. Another thing that we worked on was the Family Assistance Center, which was very big, because again, if you deal with Century, then let's just, I know I'm not trying to, but a business like that, right? Headquarters has 2,600 people that could be on campus. Now, people are coming in, people are going out, we don't know who's injured, we don't know where they're going. On the EMS side, we worked on our tracking. We've partnered with the state with their EM tracker now, and we were the first unit to do that, and that was just more or less for treatment, triage, and transportation. It's a system that we work with the hospitals so they can, so the medics can, the transportation medic can see what is available for beds in our area. So in other words, when we're triaging these patients that are very sick and injured, they can get online right there on scene through the World Wide Web and see what hospitals can take. Now, when you talk about moving patients, at one point, I believe we moved 21 different patients, fictionally, but 21 patients. We only have 7 ambulances in the county, right? So think about what they have to do. Some of these range anywhere between reds, yellows, which red is the worst. Yellows mean you got a few minutes, but you don't want to take too much time. So we utilize that system with our area hospitals and our regional HERC, which is the Northeast, and we found that it worked, but we found a lot of really, yeah. Does that, I mean, so those are great things to find out, because usually what happens is we write it on a notepad. But when we bring back to the Family Resource Center that we're talking about, the Family Assistance Center, you talk about importance. If that's your loved one, you want answers. And you want answers sometime. I think most people are reasonable, but they're not going to say, like, when you look at a piece of paper and you go, where'd they go? They went to Marshfield. No, they went to Wausau. No, they went to Green Bay. No, maybe they went to Madison, right? You want, that stuff's got to, that's on us. That's on every first responder. That's on law enforcement. That's on everybody to be able to say, they're over there, or they're injured and they have to go somewhere, because they want answers, and if they don't get them, they're going someplace to find them, right? And then we're just going to create more problems. So that focus was a really good focus that we learned. At least from my level, I learned a lot of different different aspects. And then secondly, we're doing an after-action review with each crew with this, just to see where that training hit. Because this is a 3-day extensive 8-hour training with all law enforcement. So we wanted to say, all right, so we have some new medics and we have some old medics and we have, we have new officers and we have some older officers. Where do we need to be in this training to make you feel comfortable? So that was the other thing with the RTF. And again, it was a great thing. We work with all different law enforcement. They get together. Training Officer Howard and our RTF team do a great job of getting that squared away. So that is really good. I just wanted to go on that. Secondly, Shane Westfall just returned back from the National Fire Academy. He took a 2-week extensive course on EMS management and looking at the different aspects of our system. And he came back, and I look forward to listening to what he learned from other departments. There were 19 different departments nationwide, some small, some large, but it was great training for his path forward with what he'd like to do with the fire department. So that was very nice. That is what I have. Do we have any questions?
Joe, I just was watching the article about the Marshfield Clinic.
Yes, the
Hospital
river
room.
region, yes.
They're getting hospital rooms as of, I think, next week.
Yep.
Now, are they being tied in with our training? Because otherwise, automatically, you're thinking about hospitals, you're thinking about what I would call St. Mike's, but of course.
So yes, they were invited to RTF, but I totally understand that they were unable to play because they're trying to get spun up. I've been in contact with their ER manager and a couple of their other senior upper people for the hospital aspect of it, and working with them to prepare them for the next step. Well, next step to just opening, because they have a lot of different things. They have to have emergency plans squared away and a lot of other different aspects. There's emergency room flow. There's a lot of different. There's how are we going to contact the hospitals and all those types of things. So we've been working with them. We informed them of the training. They politely said that they were really busy, and I totally get it. But they are on board for next year.
Is that same with Aspirus, what I would call Southern Stevens Point, but I understand is referred to as Aspirus?
We did. We worked with both hospitals. As a matter of fact, this year we brought the injured law enforcement officer to Aspirus Plover. And so at one day they were just the primary hospital that we were dealing with. So in other words, a lot of this has to do with communications, and we don't know what we don't know. And it's...
In these trainings, Joe, do we ever involve the Flight for Life?
Generally, we did one year when we did it out at the airport, and it just becomes a very expensive endeavor for them to simulate putting a patient in a helicopter. But they are notified, and like I said, one of those things that you come through training. It turns out Stevens Point Airport will take as many helicopters. He said, I can take as many helicopters as you can get there. Just give me a call so I can have our fuel stations open. So when you look at things like, you're like, oh, well, that's a good thing to write down in there, because if I'm sending helicopters to the Stevens Point Airport for injured patients, and we could have upwards to 8 helicopters there, they're going to need fuel. And somebody they need to know that they need to open that up. So those are all things that we're learning as we move forward with this.
Terrific. Thank you, Joe.
Very good. Any other questions for Joe? Seeing none. Chief Moody, it's back to you.
All right. Just one other thing on the EMS side. Our 2 new ambulances are on track, and they do plan on being here mid-June. So that's important as well. With that, also, there has been an increase in Mabus requests throughout Division 110. We are part of Division 110, Portage County Mutual Aid Box Alarm System. The Stevens Point Fire Department's been requested outside the city several times this past month to assist in working structure fires. Those calls and requests are up. Also, 2 of our current employees, Lieutenant Schoberly and myself, went to the Milwaukee Honor Guard School this past month. That's why I was not here last month to be able to represent the department, and Chief Gemza filled in my place, learning about line of duty deaths, notifications, and Honor Guard program. It was a well taught and well worth the time to go program in Milwaukee. Also, Lieutenant Zander and firefighter A-Strike went to and completed a company officer academy program in Iowa. They came back completely energized, ready to go, and I look forward to seeing what those two do in that category moving forward with that part of the department. Last, the annual report. All of you should have received. Please take the month to review it. If there are any questions, feel free to ask, reach out, or we can answer those at next month's meeting.
Will there be a quiz?
There will be no quiz, I promise.
Only for you.
Only for me.
Anything else?
No, that is it.
All right, we're going to move on to agenda item number, well, on that one, I'm going to make a motion to accept the report and place it on file. Do we have a second?
Second
Move for a second.
Either
Bob
one.
can take it.
Seconded by Ostrowski. Any other questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Last item on the agenda is the President's report. I only have a couple of things. Look at the third week in May. I will be sending out an email so that we can schedule an update on a couple of things that we need to do in closed session for bargaining and for some legal matters that we need to discuss. The other great big stack of papers that you've got is a copy of the police department union contract and the fire department union contract. So you now have those. They're the most current ones that we have. And you also got a copy of the League of Municipalities Police and Fire Commission book to reference for questions, answers. And if there's anything else, I believe that's all I have for now.
How much time do you think we need in the third week of May? Like a day?
2
days?
hours.
2 hours, okay.
Will that include the exit interview ideas?
No, we're gonna save that for another
A
time.
special meeting.
This is gonna involve lawyers, so I'm being conservative with 2 hours.
I just say 2 hours, I think you ought to change
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I'll block 6. Okay.
I'll make it 2. All right, is there any other questions? We are adjourned, and it's not quite 3 o'clock.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.